Hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Your Next Best Step podcast. I almost said the Theresa podcast. Oh my, I just got my coffee. It is earlier than I normally record, but I wanted to hop in here and talk to you today about something that I think a lot of business owners struggle with normally, but are really struggling with right now. I mean, right now, things are just so and I've talked to a lot of different business owners and entrepreneurs and people who just feel heavy. Things feel heavy. There's so much going on in the world. You hear about costs going up, inflation, people struggling to hire employees, small businesses, that are saying, oh, well, our revenue is coming back, but we're not going to invest in our business because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going on. And businesses just saying, I don't know what to do to increase my revenue. Things, I had a peak there for a while, and now things are going backwards, and there's just a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot of heaviness and a lot of stuff that we have to navigate and kind of work through. And we're coming to the end, or coming to the end. Well, we're coming to the end of 2021, and just starting off the fourth quarter, and a lot of people are just tired. They're tired and frustrated. And, we've had to navigate so many different things over the past 19 months. And particularly, everybody thought, oh, 2021 is going to be so much better. And, goodbye 2020. So much stuff happened in 2020. And now 2021 is just going to be like magically, it's going to be different. And the truth is that I think for a lot of businesses, and a lot of my clients have said this, that 2021 was actually a lot harder than 2020. It was a lot harder because they were facing new challenges. They were facing challenges of trying to get staff that they had to furlough, because of the pandemic, trying to get staff to come back, and people navigating, the unemployment, a lot of people wanting to stay on unemployment, and just navigating the issue of, hiring people is so different in 2021 than it's ever been. And, we had the name of the Great Resignation, and all these people, leaving their jobs and switching careers and switching companies and switching, things that they were doing. And just so many different things that we've had to navigate. And I had a conversation with a client of mine last week, and, they had contacted me and said, oh my gosh, we did all this work, we've done all these things, and, things are going in the right direction. And now all of a sudden things are going backwards. And, what do we do? And when we sat down and we started to look at it and say, okay, what are the facts of what is happening right now? Okay. And I encourage you, if you are struggling in your business and you are frustrated and you've had things that have happened where you're like, that anxiety starts to kick in and that frustration starts to kick in and the overwhelm, I want you to just ask yourself and stop and say, okay, what are the facts? Because the truth is that overwhelm is an abundance of everything we've ever asked for. Overwhelm is the conglomeration of all of the things that we've wanted to achieve coming at the same time. And it's just a matter of how do we look at them? What is our perspective on them? And how are we going to get through them? Okay. So when we have situations like this, and this is what I did with my clients last week, and I said, okay, let's look at the facts. The facts are revenue's not coming in. The facts are that, we're putting all of we're trying so hard to get our business out there and trying to build our revenue, and things aren't working. And oh my gosh, we're spending all this time and trying to handle customer requests and trying to handle, trying to just keep our business going, but we have disruptions in our supply chain, or we have costs are increasing. I encourage you to stop and say to yourself, okay, what are the facts? What is actually happening here? Okay. And asking yourself, what kind of effort have I been putting in? And what have I been dedicated to? One of the big things when people say to me, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed, we have all this going on, da 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 da. And then when I ask to look at their schedule and we can see, okay, well, you've been dedicated to making yourself super busy and not dedicated to the things that you really need to do. Okay. So bottom line is asking yourself, what is really going on here? Okay. What is really happening? What are the facts? Okay. The facts are revenue is low. Okay. What have you done? And that thought then that revenue is low, the thought that happens is, oh my gosh, my business is going to tank, right? And that makes us feel really crappy and scared, and that this isn't going to work. This is never going to work. And, is this the end of my business? Excuse me. And then the result that we end up getting is we get ourselves into a swirl. Oh my gosh. Sorry. We get ourselves into a swirl. I don't know if I just inhaled a bug. And we get ourselves into a swirl. And then it's harder for us to shift our perspective or really look at what's really happening so that we can start moving forward and changing that direction. So when I had this conversation with my clients, I've actually had this conversation a lot because it happens, where our circumstance ends up dictating, what's ever happening in the current time. So that current circumstance ends up dictating how we feel or think about a specific situation. So once we went through and we said, okay, what is really happening right now? Okay, revenue is going backwards. Okay, what kind of effort have you put in? Have you put out your marketing? Have you done this? Have you looked into other vendors? And if you can answer, whatever your situation is, all right, if you look at the facts and ask yourself, what kind of effort have I been putting in? And more often than not, all right, the problems that we're having actually have to do with something that we're not doing ourselves, okay, or even the way that we're looking at the situation. Like I said, overwhelm is the abundance of everything we've ever asked for. And when someone first told me that, I was like, really? But if you think about it, all right, if we get overwhelmed because we're trying to solve a problem, or we're trying to look at a situation with an old set of eyes, okay, or with a past set of a way that we've dealt with something, or as I said in a recent podcast and social media post, we're trying to play a new game with an old playbook. All right. So taking a look at the situation and saying to yourself, what is really happening here? And what kind of effort have I really put in? More than likely, the effort hasn't been what you need to do, because the things that we're trying to achieve are different than what we were trying to achieve before. And what we did before is not necessarily going to work now. So if your marketing efforts have always just been to post one time per day, a picture post, and that's not working and you're not seeing any traction, well, you might have to do something different. All right. And with my client, it was, okay, what is your goal? What is the goal that you're trying to achieve? And then if you achieve that goal, what is that going to enable you to do? Well, it's going to enable you to invest in inventory. It's going to enable you to do more marketing. It's going to enable you to, do whatever it is that you need to do. Okay, so let's break that down and say, all right, in order to get that goal, what do you need to do every month? What do you need to do every week? What do you need to do every day for the next 90 days. And just kind of looking at it and putting it into, all right, these are the concrete things I need to do. And once we started to do that, once we started to break it down and say, all right, yes, this is the current situation. This is the current thing, this current circumstance that we're in. But we're not going to let that dictate our next steps. What we're going to do is say, take control of the situation and say, okay, this is what has happened. We're not going to stay in this place. We are going to move forward. So what is it that we're trying to achieve? All right, what is our goal? Whether it's a revenue goal, an impact goal, a hiring goal, like whatever it is, what is it that we're trying to achieve? And then backing into it and saying, what is it that we need to do? What is it that we need to do differently? And what are the next steps that we can take so that we can get closer to our goal? What are the next best things that we can do, those next best actions that we can take that are going to get us out of this situation, or not even get us out of this situation, but help us to look at the situation differently? Because when we shift our perspective and we look at things differently, our circumstance looks different. When we shift our perspective and look at things differently, our circumstance changes. Our whole world can change when we change our thoughts. And if we go back to what I said in the beginning, if we stop and look and say, okay, what is the circumstance? Our revenue is down. What is that making me think about the circumstance? Well, I think that my business is going to tank and that I don't know what I'm doing. How does that make you feel? Well, it makes me feel like I'm failing. It makes me feel like I don't have any time and I don't have any bandwidth. Okay, and then what is that going to get you? Nowhere. It's going to keep you in that swirl. So what can we do differently? When we start to break it down in that way, it helps us to start changing our perspective. It starts helping us to change the context in which we are looking at things. Okay, so instead of looking at it like our revenue's down, we can look at it like, okay, what can we do to get more visibility? What can we do to change the way that we're doing? How can we do things differently to get results that we've never gotten before? All right. And to help us to continue to move forward. So yes, things are heavy right now. Things are frustrating right now. People are dealing with a lot. Businesses are dealing with a lot. Okay. But if we stay in that thought pattern of businesses are dealing a lot and it's frustrating and we're going to continue to be in that frustration space. But if we can look at it and say, all right, what have we been dedicated to? What have we been committed to? And how does that relate to the results that we're trying to get? And many times over, what we've been committed to, all right, if we're in this space of negative thinking, of frustration, it's because we are letting the current circumstance dictate what we can and can't do. And then also B, we haven't been committed to taking the actions that we really need to take because many times over, there are things we've never done and they're out of our comfort zone. So first step is to stop and say, okay, what is really happening here? What are the facts? All right, so we can get out of that swirl. And then number 2, start to break it down and ask yourself, what are we trying to achieve? What is it that we're trying to achieve? We need to hire 3 people. We need to increase our revenue 10%. We need to find new vendors because number 1, it's taking forever. We have delays in shipments, but number 2, our costs are up. All right. How can we take the best next actions to move us forward instead of staying in that swirl of uncertainty and frustration? We can look at what we think is overwhelm. We can look at it as what's happening right now is everything we've ever asked for. We just need to do something different to handle what's being given to us. So I hope this helped you. And if it did, I would love to hear from you as far as what was the best thing that helped you in this episode. Because I know a lot of people are dealing with a lot of different stuff right now. And we can change the way that we look at things. But in order for us to change the way that we look at things, we also have to change the way that we think about it. So anyway, let me know what helped you the most. And until next week, have a great rest of your week. And I look forward to talking to you soon. All right. Bye for now.